Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is David Dowd, Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. David, thanks so much for joining me once again.
Pleasure, Brittany. Thank you for having me on.
Big news this week. The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, former Defense Minister Gallant, and a high-ranking Hamas official, accusing the three of war crimes. What are your thoughts on what just happened?
Well, I tend to be more measured in my analysis, but on this, I'm going to come out and just say it's farcical. The Hamas official, I mean, testament to that, right? The Hamas official that was named in the arrest warrants was Mohammed Deif. Mohammed Deif has been killed by the Israelis. That the Israelis have acknowledged killing him, and even certain Hamas officials have acknowledged that he died in interviews with Shaq al-Assad. So this attempt to create balance shows that there is no balance at all here. And Hamas welcomed this decision. And we can get into this further in the conversation, but the way the court went about this, from start to finish, from the so-called State of Palestine's accession to the Rome Statute, all the way to the issuance of the warrants, violates the court's own foundational statute, the Rome Statute.
So let's talk about this further. Why did Hamas welcome this?
Mhm. Hamas said that this would constrain Israel's actions, right? Hamas said that this is the start of a process of delegitimizing the occupation, as they call it. And what they mean by the occupation is all of Israel. It's not just Israel's control over the West Bank or Gaza. And let's be frank, when you're dealing with the issuance of international arrest warrants, they're obviously going to impact publicly elected officials, openly, people who are out in the open, who don't have the anonymity of Hamas fighters in a way that they won't with, say, a Hamas official. Mohammed Deif, right? We have some idea of what he looked like, but he could pass through an airport. Assuming he's no longer alive, but when he was alive, he could have passed through an airport without being recognized. And the same goes for any of Hamas's spokespeople or fighters. These people hide behind anonymity, so the law can't be applied to them in the same way that it could be applied to Israel. What this does constrains Israel's actions. It delegitimizes its ability to respond in self-defense to Hamas's depredations, and that balances the scales and the disparity of power between the two adversaries.
You called this farcical. President Biden really had some harsh words back in May when the ICC was seeking an arrest warrant for Netanyahu and other Israeli leaders. He said it was outrageous, and he added that there's, quote, no equivalence, none, between Israel and Hamas. Do you think that this is a false equivalency game?
I think it's an attempt to create a false pretense of balance when, again, you're not dealing with equally culpable actors. And again, if we go by the Rome Statute, and I think this needs to be emphasized, first, the ICC should not have jurisdiction here. Right? Israel's not a member of the Rome Statute, and Palestine does not require. You have to be a state to become a member of the Rome Statute. Palestine, whatever we think should happen between Israel and the Palestinians politically one day, there is no state of Palestine that fulfills the legal criteria of statehood, the four indicia of statehood, according to the Montevideo Convention, which are a definite territory, a definite population, an independent government, and the ability to enter into foreign relations with states. So how are you entering into a conflict where you don't have jurisdiction?
Israel's not a member of the ICC. The United States, Israel's biggest ally, also not a member of the ICC. So how big of a deal is this realistically?
Mhm. Well, I think, again, the fact that the Rome Statute requires certain things before the ICC can intervene. First, again, jurisdiction, right? Either membership or that the crimes alleged need to occur in the member's territory. The ICC has allowed a state that is not a state or an entity that is not a state to become a member. So they're already step one is questionable. Step two is the principle of complementarity, meaning the ICC will not intervene in a case where a country has an independent judiciary, like Israel, that is willing or able to conduct investigations or prosecutions into the crimes alleged on its own, right? Again, Israel has a respected judiciary, which is so fiercely independent that the government spent the year prior to the Gaza war pushing the judicial overhaul to reduce its independence because they were saying it's too strong. And that failed, right? The judiciary's power in Israel remains the same. Gali Bahar of Miara, the attorney general, who's kind of the head of the Israeli judiciary for all intents and purposes under Israeli law, not just is her position entirely independent. She's a fiercely independent holder of office who has been a thorn in the side of the government. She herself has called for the State Commission of Inquiry into the Gaza war once it finishes to also investigate war crimes. Israel has done this in the past. So all the criteria for the ICC's intervention have not been fulfilled, and nevertheless, the ICC basically put a conclusion that they want to investigate Israel's actions first, and then basically fit the law to fit that to match that conclusion. This has implications for a country like the United States, which is also not a member of the ICC, and which we've been dragged into conflicts with actors similar to Hamas in the past, and I can expect we'll have that in the future. So it puts us on notice that these supranational bodies that are unaccountable to anyone will end up overriding our sovereignty, even when their own statutes prevent them from doing so.
Like you said, Netanyahu can't exactly step off a plane and hide behind anonymity. He's pretty recognizable. But what are the chances of him actually getting arrested here in one of these ICC countries? Would that happen, or does this just hamstring Israel? What does this all mean?
So there is the possibility of arrest, right? I think there's kind of the immediate impact and there's the long-term impact. The immediate impact is that, again, there are something like 123 plus, give or take, countries that are members of the ICC. Some of these are allies of the state of Israel, right? And Prime Minister Netanyahu may have to go there for official state business. Canada, for example, an ally ostensibly of the state of Israel, said it will enforce the ICC decision. But also imagine, right, Israel's chief ally is the United States. It's a 12-hour flight. What if Prime Minister Netanyahu's plane has to stop off in France or the United Kingdom or another ICC member state because of refueling or predictable technical difficulties? They could be arrested then. So that's step one. The other part, and this is the long-term part, right? This is the part that Hamas is celebrating. It's the delegitimization of the state of Israel's exercise of its right of self-defense. It's the idea, it's this creating the idea that Israeli self-defense, the exercise of Israeli self-defense, is synonymous with criminality, synonymous with genocide. We've seen this push to use law to delegitimize Israel's exercise of its right of self-defense from the outset of this war. I mean, we've seen it prior to this, but definitely kind of on steroids, if you will, from the outset of this war, between the case filed by South Africa at the ICJ and now this. And that's the long-term impact, that anytime Israel goes to exercise its right of self-defense, this is another thing it has to worry about. And the very exercise of self-defense is tainted with the idea that Israel is not a law-abiding country, that its army is not a law-abiding army that is adhering to the laws of war, but it's committing acts of starvation and murder and so on and so forth.
Let's talk about the timing here. Why wasn't Hamas charged after October 7th? Because when we see what happened on October 7th, wouldn't that count as a war crime?
It absolutely would. But again, you can ask the prosecutor, Karim Khan, why he chose not to go after Hamas in that same way. Look, he's had one trip to the region in December, if I'm not mistaken. It was a Palestinian-focused trip. He was supposed to conduct another fact-finding mission to the area, and he canceled it on May 20th, the same day that he issued his call for the arrest warrants. He hasn't done his job, frankly. He hasn't, he's alleged that the Israelis are taking certain acts as a matter of policy with the intent to cause starvation and harm to the Palestinian population. But he hasn't gone and sat down with Israeli military officials and seen, like, what if there are any mitigating factors that are, if indeed, as he alleges, right, the Israelis aren't allowing enough food into Gaza is one of the elements that he's attempted to charge the Israelis with. Are there mitigating factors on the Israeli side? Go sit down and do a proper fact-finding mission to determine this. He hasn't done that. Again, this seems like a politically stacked or politically motivated decision. I think that accounts for why he didn't immediately move to go after Hamas when their crimes were obvious and self-documented.
The timing also comes 2 weeks after Donald Trump won the election. Does that matter? Do you think that timing is just coincidental?
I mean, I can't speak to the minds of the judges who finally approved the arrest warrants. Perhaps not. I can't speak to that. It could just be the time that it took to review legal processes, are lengthy by nature. I think Karim Khan had been pressing for this for some time. If anything, it's bad timing. I would imagine that the Trump administration, like there are U.S. laws. There's a law passed in 2002, whose name I'm blanking on right now, but it basically empowers the United States that if one of our officials or service members are arrested by an ICC country, and not just directly, but also those of our allies, Israel is named by name in this 2002 statute, to act against such an action. So I would imagine that under a Trump administration, the United States would be more willing to enforce this law forcefully, rather than under the Biden administration, which has more of a tendency to be more cooperative with international institutions like the ICC.
The Israeli-Hamas war has been going on now for over a year. What do you think that this action does to the trajectory of the war?
I mean, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that Israel will not be deterred. The war is ongoing. I think what it does is complicate matters for the Israelis. It's another pressure point that Hamas can use to bring the war to a premature conclusion. Look, all Hamas wants is to survive, not for the Palestinians to survive. We need to distinguish between this. Hamas itself wants to survive. They want this war to end prematurely so they can regenerate at a certain point and plan to attack Israel again in the future, as they've threatened to do. Right? Hamas itself has now become part of the resistance axis, this Iranian-led regional alliance, whose joint goal is the destruction of the state of Israel. It's allies with Iran, with Hezbollah, with the Houthis. So if this resistance axis loses Gaza as a front against Israel, that's a serious setback. They want to see this end prematurely for the Israelis. So this is another pressure point on Israel to lead it to end the war prematurely. We'll see if this even translates or has some impact on Israeli actions in Lebanon as well.
Well, David Dowd, I always appreciate our conversations. I appreciate your insight, your expertise. You are welcome back anytime. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.